The stars looked different from this distance. Captain John Mercer stood on the bridge of the EA's Pathfinder, Earth's first faster-than-light vessel, watching the unfamiliar constellations through the main viewport. Humanity had finally broken the light barrier in 2057. And now, 3 months into their maiden voyage, they had traveled farther than any human before them. "Captain, we're picking up some unusual readings from the third planet," said Lisa Harrington, her eyes fixed on the science station display. The tall, red-haired woman had been the obvious choice for science officer, with 3 Fijis and experience in xenobiology that, until now, had been purely theoretical. Mercer walked over to her station. "Natural phenomenon." "I don't think so, sir. The energy signature is too regular, too controlled." The bridge fell silent. Everyone understood what that might mean. "How long until we reach scanning range?" Mercer asked. "About 4 hours at current speed," replied Lieutenant Alan Wright from the helm. Wright was the youngest crew member at 29, but his natural talent for spatial navigation had made him invaluable for this mission. Mercer nodded. "Maintain course, and let's go to yellow alert, just to be safe." 4 hours later, the Pathfinder entered orbit around the planet. It was smaller than Earth, with 2 small moons and vast oceans covering most of its surface. "Captain," Lisa called out, her voice tight with excitement, "I'm detecting an artificial structure in orbit on the far side of the planet." Mercer's heart raced. "Can we get visual?" "Coming up now," said Wright, adjusting the ship's sensors. The main screen flickered, then displayed an image that confirmed what humanity had long suspected but never proven. They were not alone in the universe. The vessel was unlike anything they had imagined. It had no visible engines, no apparent weapons. Its sleek, silvery surface reflected the local star's light, making it shimmer like a mirage. "It's beautiful," whispered communications specialist Alan Wright. "And it's moving," Lisa added. "It's changing course toward us." "Yellow alert to red," ordered Mercer. "Defensive posture, but weapons remain cold. We're not starting humanity's first interstellar war." The strange ship approached with impossible speed, then stopped just 2 kilometers away. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission," Wright reported, surprise evident in his voice. It's in English." "Put it through," Mercer said, straightening his uniform. A gentle voice filled the bridge. "Greetings, travelers from Earth. We are the Volari. We've been watching your world for some time." Mercer exchanged glances with his officers before responding. "This is Captain John Mercer of the Earth Alliance ship Pathfinder. We come in peace." "As do we, Captain. We must admit, we're surprised. Most species require guidance to achieve faster-than-light travel. You developed it independently. Most impressive." "Thank you," Mercer replied, unsure what else to say. "Captain Mercer, your arrival is fortuitous. There exists a community of spacefaring species, 27 in total, who govern this sector of the galaxy through what we call the Galactic Council. Would your people be interested in learning more?" 6 weeks later, Ambassador Diane Powell stood before the United Nations General Assembly in New York. At 53, she had spent decades in diplomatic service, but nothing had prepared her for this responsibility. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, "the Volari have extended an invitation for humanity to observe the Galactic Council proceedings. This represents the greatest opportunity in human history." The assembly erupted in applause and excited chatter. "A diplomatic corps is being formed immediately. I will lead our first delegation to the Council space station called the Nexus." Later that evening, the Nexus was enormous beyond anything Diane Powell had imagined. The space station stretched nearly 10 miles from end to end, a spinning wheel of metal and light that housed the diplomatic center of 27 spacefaring civilizations. As the Volari transport ship approached, Powell pressed her hand against the viewport, trying to take it all in. "It's incredible," said Keith Morgan, her strategic advisor. The former military man had been handpicked for his sharp mind and calm under pressure. Next to him, Olivia Chen nodded in agreement. As Earth's top xenolinguist, she had spent the 3-month journey studying the language files provided by the Volari. Think about it. Thousands of years of different species working together. Powell wasn't so sure. Something in her diplomatic instincts told her that things weren't as perfect as they seemed. The Volari shuttle docked smoothly at one of hundreds of identical bays. When the doors opened, they were greeted by a delegation of 6 different alien species. Ambassador Powell, said a tall, blue-skinned being with 4 arms. "I am Consul Vexalar of the Volari. Welcome to the Nexus." The next few hours were a blur of introductions and protocol. Powell and her team were shown to their quarters, surprisingly Earth-like rooms that the Volari had prepared based on human specifications. "They've been watching us for a long time," Morgan remarked quietly as they settled in. 3 days later, the human delegation attended their first council session. The chamber was circular, with tiered seating for hundreds of representatives. Powell noticed immediately that some species had more prominent positions than others. "Observers will remain in the outer ring," instructed a small, insect-like being who served as their guide. From their seats at the back, the humans watched as the council debated trade routes, resource allocation, and security concerns. 3 species seemed to dominate every discussion. The Volari, the Zenthari, a reptilian race with metallic scales, and the Murians, who appeared to be evolved from something like Earth's octopi. "The elder races," whispered a voice beside Powell. She turned to see a furry, fox-like alien watching her. "I'm Ambassador Zix of the Tellurians," the creature said. "Like you, we were once newcomers." "The elder races?" Powell asked. "Volari, Zenthari, and Murians. They founded the Council 50,000 years ago. The rest of us just follow along." There was a hint of bitterness in Zix's voice. Over the next few weeks, Powell met with representatives from many species. A pattern emerged. The 3 elder races controlled all major decisions, while the other 24 species, now 25 including humans, had limited input. "It's not quite what they advertised," Powell told her team during a private meeting in their quarters. Earth technology had been carefully checked for eavesdropping devices, and Morgan ran regular sweeps for new ones. "It's a caste system," Chen said. 3 species on top, everyone else below. Morgan nodded. "And they control access to advanced technology, key resources, and trade routes. Very convenient." Powell tapped her finger on the table thoughtfully. "Ambassador Zix mentioned that there are other species who feel the same way. I think we should arrange some unofficial meetings." The following month, Powell secretly met with representatives from 12 other younger species. They gathered in the Tellurian quarters, away from the watchful eyes of the elder races. "We've been on the council for 300 years, said a crystalline being from a race called the Novan. "We still can't vote on security matters. The Zenthari blocked our application for a mining colony last cycle," added a plant-like Florian representative. "Then they claimed it for themselves." Powell listened carefully to each complaint. "On Earth, we have a saying, 'United we stand, divided we fall.'" "What does that mean?" asked Zix. "It means that separately, none of us have power, but together, we might." The other representatives exchanged glances. "The elder races have kept us competing with each other for centuries," said the Novan. "They would never allow us to form a coalition." Powell smiled. "Who said they need to know?" As the meeting continued, Powell realized they had stumbled upon something important. The elder races maintained control not through superior technology or numbers, but by keeping the younger species divided and dependent. Back in her quarters that night, Powell looked out at the stars and thought about Earth, so far away and so new to this complex galactic politics. Humans had been granted observer status only, allowed to watch but not participate. "Just watch us," she whispered to herself. "Just watch what humans can do." 6 months into their observer status, Powell and her team had settled into a routine. They attended council meetings, filed reports back to Earth, and continued their secret talks with the other younger species. Earth had begun building its first proper space fleet, small but growing. Everything was proceeding steadily until the day the alarms blared throughout the Nexus. Powell was meeting with Ambassador Zix when the station shook violently. Red lights flashed in the corridors as they rushed toward the council chamber. "What's happening?" Powell asked a passing Volari official. "We're under attack," the blue-skinned alien replied, all four arms moving in agitation. "The Vex have breached our outer defense line." The council chamber was in chaos. On the main display screen, a fleet of black, spike-covered ships tore through the council defense forces. Elder race vessels exploded one after another, unable to stop the attackers. "The Vex weapons bypass our shields completely," a Zenthari military commander reported. "We've lost 3 battle groups already." High Lord Krell of the Zenthari pounded his scaled fist on the table. "Who are these Vex? How do they enter council space undetected?" No one had answers. Powell watched as the elder races, for the first time, seemed genuinely afraid. She tapped her communicator. "Morgan, are you seeing this?" "I am," her advisor replied. "Their tactics are interesting. They're targeting the elder race ships first, leaving the younger species alone when possible." Powell had noticed that too. She stepped forward, breaking protocol by entering the inner circle where observers were forbidden. "Excuse me," she said loudly. All eyes turned to her, some with surprise, others with annoyance. "Human, return to your assigned area," ordered a Murian counselor, tentacles waving dismissively. With respect, Powell continued, "Earth may be able to help." "What could your primitive species possibly offer?" asked High Lord Krell with a sneer. "A different perspective. Your technology isn't working against these Vex, but humans have been fighting wars without advanced technology for thousands of years. We understand tactical thinking." The council chamber fell silent. The elder races exchanged glances. "Let her speak," said the Volari representative finally. Powell pointed to the display. "The Vex ships move in groups of 3. They protect each other's blind spots, but they always attack in straight lines, never deviating. That suggests their weapons can only fire forward." The military commanders looked at the footage again. "She's right," one admitted reluctantly. "Earth has a small battle group 2 days from here, conducting training exercises," Powell said. "Captain Eric Foster commands 5 ships. Let us join your defense." After heated debate, the council agreed. 2 days later, Foster's ships arrived. They were small compared to the massive elder race vessels, but they moved quickly and unpredictably. "This is Captain Foster of Earth Alliance," he transmitted to the combined fleet. "We've analyzed the enemy patterns and developed counter-tactics." The human ships demonstrated their strategy, approaching Vex vessels from multiple angles simultaneously, forcing them to choose which threat to face. When the Vex turned to engage one human ship, others attacked from behind. "Their rear quadrant has no shields at all," Foster reported after the first successful engagement. "And their weapons can't rotate more than 15 degrees. The council commanders quickly adapted human tactics. Within days, the tide began to turn. Human ships, despite their inferior technology, scored victory after victory. In the council chamber, Powell watched the elder race's reactions. The Zenthari seemed angry, the Murians calculating, and the Volari strangely pleased. "Your species has an unusual talent for warfare," Consul Vexilar of the Volari told her privately. "Most remarkable." Powell smiled diplomatically. "We prefer peace, but when forced to fight, we do it well." As the Vex were gradually pushed back, Powell received a message from Commander Bennett back on Earth. "Well done. You've shown them what humans can do. Now they'll never underestimate us again." Not sure if that's good or bad. Powell couldn't help but agree. Humanity had proven itself on the galactic stage. The question was, what would happen next? 2 weeks after the Vex were driven back, The council chamber was filled with representatives from all 27 species. Powell stood at the center, no longer relegated to the observer section. In recognition of humanity's contribution to our common defense, announced the Volari Council, Earth is hereby granted full council membership. Applause filled the chamber, though Powell noticed the Zenthuri representatives seemed less enthusiastic. She bowed respectfully to the assembly. Earth thanks you for this honor, she said. We look forward to working with all species for our shared prosperity. Later that day, Powell met with the representatives from the 12 younger species she had been speaking with secretly. Now, with Earth's new status, they could meet openly in Earth's official quarters. This changes everything, said Ambassador Zix. A new species gaining full membership after only 6 months is unprecedented. We should formalize our cooperation, Powell suggested. I propose we create the Emerging Species Coalition. The representatives looked at each other. The elder races won't like that, said the Novan delegate. They don't have to like it, Powell replied. Under council law, any member species can form official alliances. We've all read the charter. By the end of the day, the Emerging Species Coalition was born. 13 species, including Earth, bound together by mutual interest. The news spread quickly through the Nexus. Back on Earth, changes were happening fast. Dr. Nicole Sanders led a team of engineers working with alien technology provided by Council exchange programs. The elder races have been holding back, she told a room full of Earth Alliance officials. Their technical specifications don't match what our sensors detected on their ships. She displayed a hologram of a modified engine design. By combining our approach with theirs, we've created something new, something better. Commander Bennett nodded approvingly. How soon can we implement this? Production has already begun, Sanders replied. Earth's industrial capacity has impressed our allies. We're building ships faster than any other council race. On the Nexus, Powell navigated increasingly complex political waters. The ESC now voted as a bloc, giving them significant influence. The elder races were not pleased. This coalition of yours is disruptive, High Lord Krell of the Zenthuri told Powell during a private meeting. His reptilian eyes blinked slowly as he spoke. Disruption can lead to progress, Powell replied calmly. For thousands of years, the Council has maintained order through careful balance. Perhaps it's time for a new balance. Krell's scales flattened against his head, a sign of anger. You humans move too quickly. There are things you don't understand. Then help us understand, Powell challenged. Why do the elder races have access to technologies that aren't shared with others? Why are resource-rich systems always claimed by the same 3 species? Be careful, Ambassador, Krell warned. Curiosity has consequences. After the Zenthuri left, Morgan entered Powell's office. That went well, he said sarcastically. Powell smiled. Actually, it did. He's worried. They all are. We've received a message from Captain Foster, Morgan reported. His fleet detected unusual energy readings from a restricted Murian system. Ships going in and out with no official record. Tell him to keep monitoring, but don't get too close, Powell instructed. And contact Dr. Sanders. I want to know if the technology exchanges match what we're seeing used by the elder races. 3 days later, Sanders confirmed Powell's suspicions. The technology they're sharing is at least 2 generations behind what they're using themselves, she reported via secure channel. Can we catch up? Powell asked. We already are, Sanders replied confidently. Human innovation combined with what we've learned from other ESC members is producing results nobody expected. Not even the elder races. Powell looked out at the stars through her window on the Nexus. In just months, humanity had gone from observers to influential council members. The elder races were clearly hiding something important, and Powell was determined to find out what it was, no matter the risk. Powell woke to the urgent beeping of her secure terminal. It was the middle of the night cycle on the Nexus. She fumbled with the controls, still half asleep. Ambassador, sorry to wake you, said Morgan's face on the screen. We received an anonymous data packet. You need to see this. 10 minutes later, Powell stared at the coordinates displayed on her office terminal. This is an empty space, beyond the normal shipping lanes. Morgan nodded. According to official maps, yes, but our source claims there's a secret elder race facility there. Something called the Archives. Powell tapped her fingers on the desk. This could be a trap. Or the biggest intelligence find since we joined the Council, Morgan countered. After careful consideration, Powell contacted Captain Foster. His ships were the fastest in Earth's growing fleet, but this mission would require stealth, not firepower. I'm sending Lieutenant Ryan Garcia, Foster told her. His scout ship has the latest cloaking technology Dr. Sanders developed. If anyone can get in and out undetected, it's him. Garcia was young for such a mission, only 32, but his record was impressive. A week later, his small vessel departed without ceremony, its destination known only to a select few. 3 weeks passed with no word. Powell tried to focus on council matters, but worry gnawed at her. Then, at last, a heavily encrypted message arrived. Package secured. Coming home. Garcia's ship returned to a small Earth outpost rather than the Nexus. Powell traveled there immediately on a diplomatic shuttle. When she arrived, Garcia was waiting, dark circles under his eyes. What did you find? She asked. Everything, he replied simply, handing her a data crystal. And it's worse than we imagined. The data revealed a massive facility hidden in what appeared to be a rogue planet with no star. Inside was a vast repository of knowledge and technology. The archives, maintained jointly by the 3 elder races. They'd been suppressing technological advancement for thousands of years, Garcia explained as they reviewed the files. Any time a younger species grows too powerful, they're either sabotaged or eliminated entirely. Powell's blood ran cold as she viewed records of civilizations that had vanished from council records. They were wiped out. Garcia nodded grimly. For the crime of developing too quickly. For challenging elder dominance. Like we're doing now, Powell whispered. The archives also contain blueprints for technologies far beyond anything the Council publicly used. Weapons, shields, engines, even methods of manipulating space-time itself. Powell immediately called an emergency meeting of ESC representatives. They gathered on the Earth outpost, away from the watchful eyes on the Nexus. We must be careful how we use this information, cautioned Ambassador Zix after viewing the evidence. If the elder races learn we've discovered the archives, they might move against us immediately. We need time to prepare, agreed the Novan delegate, her crystalline form shimmering with anxiety. Powell looked around the room at the representatives of 13 species, all now facing a common threat. We have 3 advantages, she said. First, they don't know what we know. Second, they underestimate how quickly humans can adapt technology. And third, we have each other. She stood and walked to the center of the room. I propose we implement what I'm calling the Guardian Protocol. Each of our homeworlds begins silent preparations for defense. Meanwhile, we continue to act normally in the Council, giving no indication we've discovered their secret. And then, asked the Florian representative. Then we confront them, Powell said firmly. Not as separate species they can pick off one by one, but as a united front. We demand equal access to the archives and a complete restructuring of the Council system. They'll never agree, Garcia pointed out. Probably not, Powell admitted, which is why we need to be ready for conflict. But we won't strike first. We'll give them a chance to do the right thing. The vote was unanimous. As the meeting concluded, Powell looked at the faces around her. Alien, yet now familiar friends. The path ahead was dangerous, perhaps even leading to war. But there was no turning back. The truth had to come to light, whatever the cost. 3 months after discovering the archives, the ESC was ready. Each member world had quietly built up defenses. Dr. Sanders had adapted several key technologies from the archives data. And most importantly, their evidence was organized and irrefutable. The day of confrontation arrived. The council chamber was full for what was listed as a routine session. Powell sat with the other ESC representatives, her heart pounding but her face calm. "Before we begin scheduled business," Powell said, standing when called upon, "the Emerging Species Coalition wishes to present new information of critical importance to all council members." High Lord Krell of the Zenthari scowled. "This is irregular. You should submit any new business through proper channels." "The information concerns the archives," Powell said clearly. The chamber went silent. The elder race representatives froze, their expressions a mix of shock and alarm. "I don't know what you're referring to," the Murian representative said, tentacles curling defensively. Powell nodded to Garcia, who activated a holographic display in the center of the chamber. Images of the archives facility appeared, followed by documents showing the suppression of technologies and the elimination of species who grew too powerful. "For thousands of years," Powell announced, "the elder races have maintained control not through wisdom or merit, but through deliberate sabotage of other species' advancement." Chaos erupted in the chamber. Younger species shouted questions and accusations. The elder races tried to call for order. "These are fabrications," High Lord Krell declared, rising to his full height. "Clever manipulations by humans who seek to disrupt our peaceful order." "Every document is authentic," Powell countered. "Verified by experts from multiple species. The archives exist. We have the coordinates. Any ship can verify our claims." The Volari consul stepped forward. "Ambassador Powell, these are serious accusations. Even if true, revealing such information publicly endangers galactic stability." "Keeping such secrets is what truly endangers us all," Powell replied. "The ESC proposes full disclosure of all archive technologies to all species and a restructuring of the Council to ensure equal representation." Krell's scales darkened with rage. "This is nothing less than a power grab. Humans have been on the Council for barely a year, and already they seek to overturn thousands of years of tradition." As the debate raged, Powell received an urgent message from Captain Foster. "Elder race fleets are moving toward ESC worlds. Massive deployments from hidden bases. They're preparing to strike." Powell discreetly signaled the other ESC representatives. One by one, they excused themselves from the chamber. "We prepared for this," Powell told them in their secure meeting room. "Operation Safeguard is now active." Throughout Council space, ESC ships moved to defensive positions. On Earth, advanced shield technology based on archive designs activated around major cities. The other ESC worlds did the same. The first attack came at the Tellurian homeworld. A Zenthari battle group emerged from hyperspace, weapons charged, but ESC ships were waiting in ambush, using tactics developed by Foster and technology enhanced by Sanders. The Zenthari were caught by surprise. 3 of their ships were disabled before they could fire a shot. Similar scenes played out across Council space. The elder races had expected easy victories against unprepared worlds. Instead, they found themselves facing coordinated resistance using technology that matched their own. On the Nexus, Powell confronted the elder race representatives. "Your fleets are attacking our worlds. You've proven everything we found in the archives is true. You leave us no choice," the Murian representative said coldly. "The balance must be maintained." "The old balance is already gone," Powell replied. "But it's not too late to create a new one. As equals, not masters and servants." As reports of battles flooded in, Powell received word that Dr. Sanders had deployed her most advanced creation. Prototype weapons developed directly from archive technology. The human-led ESC forces were not just defending, they were winning. On the main view screen in the Council chamber, a Zenthari flagship exploded under fire from Earth vessels. The elder race representatives watched in stunned silence. "This conflict can end now," Powell said quietly, "or it can escalate. The choice is yours." High Lord Krell turned to her, hatred in his reptilian eyes. "This isn't over, human. The war has only begun." 2 weeks into the conflict, The council was divided into two clear factions. The ESC had grown from 13 species to 22, as 9 previously neutral races joined after seeing the archive evidence. The elder races maintained control of only 5 loyal species. Powell studied the galactic map in the war room on Earth's largest space station. Red and blue lights showed the positions of opposing forces across council space. "We've reached a stalemate," Captain Foster reported. He looked tired, with new lines on his face after countless battles. "They can't break through our defenses, and we can't penetrate their core systems. Their technology is still slightly ahead of ours," added Dr. Sanders. "We're adapting quickly, but so are they." Powell nodded. "And the longer this goes on, the more civilians suffer on both sides." Reports from across the galaxy showed the damage. Trade routes disrupted, colonies cut off from supplies, manufacturing centers destroyed. The conflict had to end before it caused irreparable harm to all species. "It's time for a diplomatic solution," Powell decided. "Contact all ESC representatives. We need to agree on terms we can present to the elder races." The ESC leaders gathered virtually, their holograms filling the war room. After hours of debate, they reached consensus on a proposal: complete restructuring of the council with equal representation for all species, shared access to the archives, and protection for developing worlds. "We need to deliver this directly to the elder race leaders," Powell said, "not just their representatives." "That's impossible," objected Ambassador Zix. "They never leave their homeworlds, especially not during conflict." Powell smiled slightly. "Then we'll have to bring them to us." She outlined a daring plan. Captain Foster would lead a special mission targeting the Zenthari leadership directly. Not to harm them, but to capture them and force negotiations. "This is extremely risky," Foster warned. "If we fail, they'll use it as propaganda to turn more species against us. And if we succeed, we end this war," Powell countered. "The Zenthari are the most aggressive of the elder races. If they agree to talks, the others will follow." The mission launched 3 days later. Foster led a small fleet of the fastest ships, each carrying elite soldiers from various ESC species. Using data from the archives, they plotted a course through a little-known spatial anomaly that bypassed Zenthari defense systems. Powell waited anxiously on the Nexus, which had become the ESC headquarters. Hours passed with no word. Then, at last, Foster's signal came through. "Package secured," he reported. "High Lord Krell and 3 other Zenthari leaders are in custody. No casualties on either side." The news spread quickly. The Zenthari fleet fell into disarray without central leadership. Then something unexpected happened. The Volari broke ranks with the other elder races. Consul Vexillar requested a private meeting with Powell. When they met, the 4-armed alien seemed different, less formal, more direct. "This conflict must end," Vexillar said. "The Volari will support peace talks." Powell studied him carefully. "Why now?" "Because you were right." Vexillar's voice was soft. "The system we created became corrupt. Some of us have known this for centuries but feared change. And the other elder races. The Murians will follow our lead, especially with the Zenthari leadership captured. They are pragmatic, if nothing else." Public opinion throughout council space was turning against continued fighting. Protests erupted on dozens of worlds as citizens demanded peace. Even on elder race planets, people questioned the wisdom of their leaders. 3 days later, a ceasefire was announced. All sides would withdraw to pre-conflict positions. The captured Zenthari leaders would be released once formal peace talks began. As Powell prepared for the negotiations, she received a message from Commander Bennett back on Earth. "You've accomplished the impossible. Be careful in victory. Sometimes that's when we're most vulnerable." Powell understood his caution. The elder races had ruled for thousands of years. They wouldn't surrender power easily, even in defeat. The coming talks would determine not just the outcome of this conflict, but the future of galactic civilization itself. She looked out at the stars from her window on the Nexus. Somewhere out there, people of all species were watching, waiting to see if a new era was truly possible. Humanity had helped lead the galaxy to this crossroads. Now they would help choose the path forward. 1 year after the conflict began, representatives from all species gathered once more at the Nexus. The Great Chamber had been redesigned. Gone were the tiered sections that had once separated elder races from the rest. Now all seats formed a perfect circle, with no position more prominent than any other. Powell entered alongside representatives from every world. She had aged during this difficult year. New streaks of gray showed in her hair, and lines had deepened around her eyes. But today, those eyes shone with quiet pride. High Lord Krell of the Zenthari was the last to arrive. His once imperious bearing was subdued now. He took his seat without looking at Powell, though she nodded respectfully to him. "Today we signed the Galactic Reformation Accords," announced Consul Vexillar, who had been chosen to moderate this historic session. "These agreements will reshape our shared future." The terms had been negotiated over 6 grueling months. Power would be distributed equally among all member species. Leadership positions would rotate. Most importantly, the archives would be open to all, beginning an era of shared technological advancement. Each representative stepped forward to place their hand, paw, tentacle, or appendage on the document. When Powell's turn came, she paused, thinking of the long journey that had brought humanity to this moment. The human delegate appears hesitant, noted a Murian representative, tentacles waving. "Do you have concerns about the accords?" Powell smiled. Not hesitation. Appreciation. 1 year ago, humanity was new to this council. Today, we help shape its future. I'm taking a moment to honor that journey. She placed her hand on the document. A soft chime confirmed her authorization. After the signing, Powell was surprised when High Lord Krell approached her. "You have won, human," he said quietly. "I acknowledge your victory." "This isn't about winning or losing," Powell replied. "It's about creating something better for all our peoples." Krell's scales shifted in the Zenthari equivalent of a skeptical expression. "Your species speaks of cooperation but excels at domination. We underestimated humans. I will not make that mistake again." As he walked away, Powell felt a mixture of satisfaction and concern. The Zenthari would adapt to the new reality, but old attitudes would take time to change. Later that day, Powell received unexpected news. The Reformed Council had voted to elect her as the first chairperson under the new system. "This is a great honor," she told the assembly. "Earth accepts this responsibility with humility and determination." In the year that followed, the changes were remarkable. Earth became a central hub for interspecies cooperation. Captain Foster led a combined fleet to establish new defensive perimeters protecting all Council worlds equally. Dr. Sanders created an open scientific exchange program that accelerated progress across all fields. The former elder races struggled with their new status as equals. Some adapted better than others. The Volari embraced change enthusiastically. The Murians were practical and found new opportunities for trade. The Zenthari remained aloof but complied with the new rules. On the anniversary of the Accords, Powell stood in her office on the Nexus, looking out at the stars. Morgan joined her, holding 2 glasses of champagne from Earth. "To 1 year of the new council," he said, offering her a glass. "And many more to come," she replied. They drank in comfortable silence, watching ships of all species coming and going from the Nexus. "Did you ever imagine this?" Morgan asked. "When we first arrived as observers, did you think we'd end up leading the council?" Powell considered the question. "I knew humans would find our place here. We're adaptable, innovative, sometimes stubborn to a fault." She smiled. "But leadership isn't about control. It's about service." "Still," Morgan said, "it's quite a story. From newcomers to leaders in less than 2 years." "And this is just the beginning," Powell replied. "There's an entire galaxy waiting to be explored, new species to meet, new challenges to face." She looked out at the endless stars. Humanity has taken its seat at the council. Now we help build a future worthy of all our peoples." As if in answer, a new ship appeared, sleek and powerful, bearing the combined insignia of the Reformed Council. The galaxy was changing, and humanity, once alone on its small blue planet, now helped guide that change toward a more just and equal future for all.